And a very special good Monday. Well, Monday, and I have to stop there. I was about to say Monday morning, but it's all gone now. It's now Monday afternoon. So it's good to be with you, and thank you so very much for joining me. For those of you following the live stream, we want to let you know that we appreciate the fact that you keep informing us that you are one of the followers of this program on the live stream, especially those who are living abroad, and for those who are here as well. You can access the live stream on your handheld device. Let me tell you how you can do that. Once you have data, you can go to your Google browser and type in tvcarib.com, or you can type in my website, simojournal.com, either one, and then they will lead you straight into listening live with Viewpoint and Wendell Moore. So that's how you get there. And if you want to share that with anyone else, please do so. We are also live on Facebook, so it's good to be with all of you. Okay, I want to thank you personally for your support and for listening to this program, because obviously you consider that this platform allows you to be properly informed about what's happening and what I think the general public should know. Hence the reason why I want to thank my guests as well, who made the decision that information that is pertinent to the public in general, both parents and students, that they would use this platform to reach out. And I know I'm very much conscious, folks, that students very rarely, only if by force they happen to be in the car while the mom or whoever else is listening, would they, expose themselves to this. They would rather make the choice of music or something else. That is a reality, and we are not discarding that at all. So parents, if you're listening, what we might be sharing, you might be the vehicle through which this information will reach those folks, and your listening ear is important as a result. With all of that out of the way, let me say a special good afternoon to, I have here with me a career guidance counselor from the Student Support Services Division of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Mr. Michel Chance. And today, he has brought along psychologist Miss Vashira Providence, who would be part of the conversation today. And, well, we'll see how she falls into all this. And it all has to do with hosting a mindfulness success in studying in the Netherlands workshop that is scheduled for the 26th of March. Mr. Chance, have I done justice to setting the platform for this discussion?
That's definite. Good afternoon, Wendell. Good afternoon, radio listeners.
I have?
You have.
Thank you so very much. And while I'm at it, let me say, Vashira, thank you for taking the time not only to be a part. I understand that you're going to be part of the presentation on the 26th.
Yes.
So it is good to know what role you play and how it can help the students who are planning on getting help when it comes to studying in the Netherlands. So good afternoon to you as well.
Good afternoon, radio listeners, and Mr. Moore, thank you for having me on your show. Well, my role in this workshop is to address the psychological, mental, and social challenges that students might experience when they're traveling abroad, help them to navigate those challenges and have a toolkit, of things that they can pull from when they are in stress or distress. They're feeling overwhelmed, whether fears, homesickness, etc. That is my role.
As a psychologist, though, would you say that there is a support base here for social issues that we can benefit from, those of us who are raised in this environment, from if we have to go somewhere else, or it differs? Or how do you see this? Because that will definitely factor into some of the guidance that you would give when it comes to what we lack here as far as social issues and what is available there, and elsewhere. How do you paint a picture of the two in words?
I would say that we have the support here. It's just persons in the community being open to receiving that support. There is student support services, there is mental health and other mental health foundations that you can access information from, or you get information. And as well there's also mental health facilities that they will have available for them.
So it's a matter of us then not taking full advantage of what's available, and as a result we
Yeah.
lag behind, if I may use that
That's
term.
part of it, yeah.
Mr. Chance, I know you're out there every time providing all the services, and to speak to that part, I know here we are very much into surviving, and a lot of it has to do with, we think the only source of survival is money, and it may mean that we push a lot of things aside, like Vashida just mentioned, that are there available for us, but we are hesitant or we don't want to, because sometimes when interpret, it appears that something is wrong with you when nothing is. So in that regard, how do you see your continued working with these students and having to do this every year, because I see you just about every time you have these workshops?
Yep. That is true. This is the first workshop for the year. And one of the things I must say that students are continually growing. And part of that growth actually is to know yourself. And if you have weaknesses, I mean, it's the only way you can overcome those weaknesses is to shore them up. And where better to start than St.Maarten? Why wait until you go to the Netherlands, for example, to say, hey, I got a problem, I don't know how to handle so and so and so, and you can already have a toolkit or have some of the tools here, and also to know how the information on how to address some of these things.
Is it a fair question to say that's where you come in then?
That's where I come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand it. Now it's making sense, because sometimes we take a lot of things for granted.
That is true.
And when we find ourselves in a place where we really need it most, only then we realize that we didn't take full advantage of what was available.
And for that reason, I would encourage parents to encourage their children to come out to these workshops, because the parents are not going to be there with the child. And one of the things the children the first thing they may do is call the parents on the telephone or video call or whatever it is and complain. And the parents, it means they might be frantic here and not knowing, exactly how to address the particular issue that the student may be having. So, of course, I mean, if the students come out to these workshops, they will be better equipped when going to the Netherlands. Oftentimes when I hold workshops for applying to schools in the Netherlands, for example, I mean, there's only standing room only. However, when it comes to the psychosocial, they're a little more hesitant to come to these workshops. It's nothing wrong with you. It's part of growth, it's part of development, and you're human. And they have to understand this.
Why do we, Bashida, why do we actually shun these things when it comes to the psychological aspect of our development?
I think at times we are skeptical of dealing with our own issues, things that we have going on. So people just kind of avoid it. I think that's the human way of dealing with things, but it's not really dealing with them. And we bring this out in the workshop as well.
It's like brushing, sweeping.
Yes, just
stuff
sweeping it under the rug and
Yeah.
closing your eyes, like it will go away eventually, but it doesn't really. So we are in the workshop also talking about mindfulness and bringing about tips and advice of how to deal with these things, not brushing them away, but as my colleague mentioned, you are making yourself aware of what is going on with you, and then seeing what is the best approach to deal with what is happening.
Okay, and for this session, you're having different people present who are there.
We're having a guest speaker. For this session, we have we're gonna have videos, we're gonna have role plays, and also a guest speaker. So basically, it's a combination of different elements, and the hope that the message comes across pretty clear, and of course, it means like the responses that we get from the participants is also in line with the whole discussion in terms of how to be successful in studying in the Netherlands.
Have you been getting any success report on some of these preparatory work that you have done?
Yes, we have gotten feedback, informal feedback from a lot of students, and of course, some may say, "Hey, this worked, this didn't work,"
Yeah.
and based on that feedback, to what we have done, we tweak, and we tweak the information going forward. And it's always good to hear from students who are successful. I mean, it's like I see them all the time. They
Yeah.
come back, and just recently they had a workshop was conducted by a student who's studying in the Netherlands too, and I was just smiling.
Yeah, but are they open, or do you find them open enough to express the good that they have benefited as a result of these preparatory?
Some of them do. Some of them do,
Yeah,
but
but-
that's human nature.
Yeah, some are not willing to even
Some
express it.
Some keep it to themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the reason? As a psychologist, what's the reason why? Is it just people are different, or is it more to it than that?
What is the question?
If when it comes to people who are hesitant to express that they have benefited from these stuff, I'm asking you from psychological perspective if it's because they are different in nature. Some people are not outspoken.
Yeah.
Something good may happen and they don't realize by sharing it how it can help someone else. I'm asking you if that is it, or there could be more to it.
Yeah,
Why
but
they keep quiet?
it can be that's just their personality, or maybe a fear of how they will come across, or having to share the details of their experience. It could be a number of things.
But at the same time, that too can affect them when they leave here and go forward if they are not prepared to upfront boldly ask questions or
Right.
have those kind of conversations. So
And that's another thing that we will address in the workshop as well, because we understand that the island life is completely different from the Dutch life. You have the island time, you have the island way of speaking. The culture on a whole is different. So we touch on that as well, how to prepare them for being more direct, being more expressive, because it might not be something that comes naturally to everybody.
okay. Mr. Chance, anything else along that line that you can share with the general public, or to at least
Yeah,
bend the students,
because
to bend the parents then to have their students come out to this workshop? You already noted that when it comes to these type of workshops, they're not standing room only, as you would make mention.
yeah, but again, too, we embrace the ones who come.
Yeah.
And to add to what my colleague said, one of the key things in terms of the Netherlands independence, how in terms of getting things done on your own and not relying on certain people in your close proximity, also to how they communicate. Some people, for example, come to the workshops and they stay there almost like a clamshell, quiet. But when they go into the Dutch society, that is not seen as a positive trait. So
What is it
they have
seen
to
as?
be. It's seen kind of negatively. I mean, you have to be able to express yourself.
Okay.
And of course, I mean, it's like, and that's what we try to advocate during these sessions too. Express yourself. I mean, you might do it slowly, because you can't come to the workshop and say, "Hey, I didn't get the response I was looking for. I didn't get this answer," and you have the question, you never ask it. And that's one of the key things too that we also bring forward in this workshop, in these workshops.
Coming through the educational aspect of St.Maarten, I realize as well that some people don't like asking questions because it makes them feel what?
Yeah, they might feel inferior or something like that, or maybe their question is dumb or stupid. But
there's
to
no
me,
such
no,
question.
there's no stupid question. You should always ask, and maybe somebody else might have had that question as well.
You see, and that's why you find, like, after the workshop, a lot of persons come up and ask questions, and sometimes stay there for half an hour, even after the workshop, because of that scenario.
Do you have to sometimes wake them up or push them towards asking a question by even telling them that
Yes,
they have questions?
We do that. We kind of probe them during the workshop, because if I walk around with a mic,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask particular individual a question, and looking forward to hear what the answer they provide, and that answer may resonate with one of the other audience members, and that's a kind of jump off in terms of the interactiveness of the workshop.
All right. So exactly where and when you're going to have this workshop, and maybe you can speak towards those who would benefit most from being there.
Okay, this workshop is going to be held this Thursday, March 26th, at the University of St.Maarten from 6 to 8 p.m. It's free of charge, and I must stress that it's free of charge, and it's for students who are looking to go to the Netherlands, who may have recently completed their exams, or in exam or pre-exam classes, secondary schools. Even the students who are at the university may be looking to go to the Netherlands to continue studies. This workshop is for you. Okay, and we would encourage parents to encourage their children, even if they mention it, if they're not sure, to come out to the workshop still.
You said that is the first of a two-part series.
That's correct.
Can you explain the difference?
The first part, we're going to deal with what is life in the Netherlands, the affairs, the expectations, things like the impact areas that they're going to be experiencing when they go there, dealing with homesickness, feeling overwhelmed, also group interactions, tips for making group interactions more meaningful. Those are the kind of topics. The second workshop is going to be a lot more different topics we're going to deal with then.
Yeah. Is there any immediate way of addressing culture shock when you're in a place where you're not familiar? How do you see the mind working and would be able to give assistance to make that adjustment to make life smoother for these students?
Okay, well, I'll speak to what we're doing with the workshop with mindfulness. In terms of the culture shock, I understand it's normal that you're leaving your home, you're leaving your parents, you're leaving everything that you know to go to a place that is big, different, maybe might seem scary. And in the workshop, we want to prepare, at least bring about awareness, as my colleague mentioned, of all the things that you could meet there that's different. The people, the weather, like we mentioned, the time. I know in Holland the time is very structured. We have island time here where we could leave last minute or show up 15 minutes late and those kind of stuff. So preparing them as much as possible to have these tools so when they get there, at least they know, or maybe even practice before they get there. So when they get there, they're not completely thrown off or overwhelmed. That's what we are trying to avoid, to give them that awareness as much as possible. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, because that is a normal human reaction, or fearful, then you know what to do in the process. And in that process, you can, for example, if we're dealing with homesickness, you can maybe take something from home that reminds you, that speaks to the senses, or that should
Something
help.
like what?
It could be a picture, it could be a candle, something that reminds you of back home and that will balance you in that moment. Things like that we will encourage them to do, because sometimes you may not even think about doing these things. When you're under a lot of stress or you're feeling the way you're feeling, you don't think logically. So instead of going to that survival mode, we give them the tips that they need, and they will have to come out to hear all of the other nice tips that we have.
You said something a moment that strikes me as well, the weather, because that is vastly different,
Very much.
and it can be very discouraging, because your customer being warm, you want to always be warm. So what do you advise?
I would suggest investing in a good jacket, and good boots, and dress on layers, like layer them on so that you can feel a bit more comfortable. The weather is not going to go away, so that's one way of trying to deal with it. And yeah,
And to add to what she said, when you talk about weather, here in St. Martin, when it rains, do you see anybody on the road?
it's a good point.
No,
Okay, but
I mean, they are sheltering.
okay, but in the Netherlands, they jump on their bicycle, they put on their raincoat, and they
Yeah.
go, and that is something. And even here, you know, when you look at outside, you see it kind of overcast, kind of gray. You know, you don't see people. Sometimes people try to avoid, you know,
Yeah.
being out. But in the Netherlands, they're accustomed to that, and they go about their business.
So they have to make
Yeah.
an adjustment.
That's correct. That's correct.
Because that can also get in the way of timing as well, because maybe you
Yeah.
have.
And it can also contribute to things like depression and all those things too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, it's important that these things are addressed beforehand. You often find students who are going to the Netherlands. This is the first time they're going. They've never been there. They have one or two or three of them, or a few of them have been there before, but majority have never been there. So, what are they going to be facing? I mean, saying instead of preparing themselves as much as they can, this is where this workshop comes in, and that's why we encourage students to come to these workshops.
I could imagine having these workshops and attended by persons who are going to go over. There might be some reservation in the back of their minds that some reservations in the back of their mind that things can serve to remind them, because no one is thinking of that prior to that. No one is thinking about.
And to add to that, a lot of students sometimes wait until last minute to prepare,
Okay.
and that last minute preparation
That's not it.
that's not good. You know, you want to get rid of as much uncertainty as possible. Yes, but preparation is key.
Yeah. All right. Let me take a break quickly. This is Viewpoint with yours truly. I'm here with both Michelle Chance along with psychologist Ms. Vashira Providence. So here speaking about the workshop that is scheduled for, I believe it's the university, right?
Yeah,
It's the
University of St.
St.
Maarten on
Maarten
Thursday.
on the 26th of March. We'll take a quick break and come right back. Okay, welcome back, folks. Again, we're here with, let's see, the folks from Student Support Services Division, who is informing the general public and in particular students and the parents that there will be a workshop on mindfulness and success studying in the Netherlands on March 26th at the University of St.Maarten, which is the customary place where this is normally held. And you all are invited to attend. The benefit of attending these workshop has a lot to do with what would be shared, some of which you might not be familiar with, or your children may not have the experience of living in those type of conditions, and it would do them well to be best prepared so that their time in the Netherlands would be spent successfully and they'll be able to make the adjustments as much as possible. Vashira, the issue of the Dutch language, which of course is often identified here, that enough has not been, educational system to encourage, the Dutch language being more used and spoken of, and by not doing it a lot, which you can't blame the system altogether, but the more versatile you are, if you leave here having both English and Dutch at the same level in terms of your proficiency, certainly help. And if it doesn't, is that recommended? And why?
Of course, I think as much as there's a lot of English being spoken now in the Netherlands, I still think that the Dutch language is very important for you to thrive there, for interaction,
Yeah.
for maybe speaking with your peers, or maybe being a part of certain social groups, volunteer groups, those kind of stuff. Going to the supermarket, maybe you just want to ask, where is this, on the aisle or something like that. So it is important, and there's the signs, everything is in Dutch there.
Yeah.
I know in St. Martin we don't have a lot of that. Certain things are in Dutch, certain things are in English, but I think the foundation, at least to know the basics of Dutch, it's very important. If you can know more, it will benefit you greatly there.
You have anything to add to that?
I-
Because
I-
I have something else that I think that I would like to bring forward in this discussion that happens regularly, where folks who left St. Maarten to go to Holland to study, and before they actually go into the college where they're going to be doing their studies, they had to do a whole 1 year study of the Dutch language in order to be prepared to be able to do that. And that's like losing a year, if you will.
That's true, Wendell. I must add, like for instance, when students come to me and tell me, "Hey, I want to go to Holland," I ask them first thing. I ask them, "Are you going to be studying in English or in Dutch?" And so I ask them, "How good is your Dutch?" "My Dutch is good." I ask them one question, and by that, they go, "What?" And they can't answer the one question I ask. And I usually tell them, if you're not speaking a language on a daily basis, or not operating on a language on a daily basis, when you get into that society, it's going to be different. So
Yeah.
even if you have a 7 or 8 or 9 in Dutch, when you get there, it's going to drop significantly. It's going to be considered lower.
Yeah.
And that's what that's one of the things that they have to understand. We learn Dutch as a second language. Some people, have had the opportunity to learn it as a first language, and that makes a big difference too. You know, about the instance where students have to take a 1 year course in the Dutch language. That's primarily for students who are going into MBO. MBO is basically I would say close to 95 to 98% of the programs in MBO are in Dutch. So you have to operate in the Dutch language. You have to be able to speak it, read it, and write it, and all to be successful in MBO.
But could that be considered an excuse for not taking the opportunity to learn the language fluently, so that even even living in the Netherlands would make it a lot more easy for such a person?
Here in St. Maarten, a lot of people take that for granted.
Yeah.
There are opportunities to learn the language.
Yeah.
And I remember I had one student in particular. What she did, she went to the Learning Ladder, for example, and she took Dutch courses in the Learning Ladder. Although she came out of the Dutch system, she was fluent in the Dutch, but she, to keep her Dutch up to date. And when she did what they call the intake gesprek, she said it was a breeze for her. The intake gesprek is what they use because they have to get into an MBO, you could apply, but you don't get in automatically. You have to do either intake gesprek, which is an interview, or intake activities, or intake tests. And of course, she did intake gesprek, which is the interview, and she did well, and she got in, and I believe she almost completed her MBO studies right now.
Yeah. Is that something that is advisable that you use for those persons who would honestly admit that they would like their Dutch to be improved somewhat? What do you tell them in a setting like that, in a workshop like that?
In this workshop, I would tell them, hey, they have, for instance, things like Duolingo, the university, the Learning Ladder, also to Dutch TV. For instance, it's like in terms of when the Dutch speak, they use a lot of expressions.
Yes.
And for instance, if you watch Dutch cartoons and Dutch TV, you're gonna hear those expressions, and you become familiar with them. And of course, it's like that's a way of learning too.
A lot of times when our people would make reference to, yes, they speak, I speak Dutch, and when you quickly realize they use only some of the Dutch words rather than fluently expressing themselves in the language, and it's very different.
Yep.
Would you agree, Rashida?
Yes, I do agree.
And such, they need to be aware and understand that because it's very different, it will make life a lot more difficult or easier, depending on how prepared you are in the language.
In adding to that, a lot of students who study in Dutch in the Netherlands, coming from the Caribbean or coming from St. Maarten, experience difficulties still. And I think I read an article recently, one who completed a degree, and this particular student was basically addressing how they dealt with that, and also to how they had, what kind of challenges they had. So it goes to show, I mean, it's like one of the things, preparation is important.
Yeah. Uh, I've had conversation with some people who obviously think in Dutch and trying to express English, and they get lost to the point where they say, "How do you say that now?" What's happening in the mind, Rashida? Because if your mother tongue language is English, you'll be doing all your thinking in the English language. But if you're dealing with a secondary language, then you have to do a translation in the mind, I guess. What is happening?
That's a good question. And I think you said part of it as well. Maybe your initial language is Dutch, so you're thinking in that way, you're functioning in that way, dreaming in that way, if you will, and then having to kind of switch, and start speaking in another language, which might be a secondary language. It could have a bit of difficulty there. I experience it as well sometimes. So, yeah.
Let's use Spanish as an example. Because we have a lot of Spanish families here. And I know students who come to school and are dealing with English. But when they're home speaking to their parents, which has an advantage when it comes to whatever the mother tongue language is, they're fluent because they have to continually communicate with their parents in their language. And when they come to school, they're dealing with a different language. So it helps to bring it to an even level where you are good at English as well as you're good at whatever that language spoken at home is. The missing of Dutch at home in some of the families means that the children drift further away from the Dutch language.
And sometimes it can be beneficial. The exposure to many languages could make you more receptive to learning the Dutch language, but it depends. It could also be, if you haven't really mastered any of them, it could be a bit confusing as well.
Mr. Chance, do you advise people to, especially if they're thinking of going to Holland to study, that they have to really push themselves more in the language?
That depends on which study they're going to do. Because, for example, if they're going to do MBO, which is primarily in Dutch, or if they're doing HBO in Dutch, that's something I would advocate for. I would tell them, hey, listen, why don't you look to take up a few courses here and there, even before you start, to refresh yourself and, to go from there. Some people say, hey, I'm going to do it when I go to the Netherlands. Some schools in the Netherlands, like MBO schools, offer that Dutch program, the one-year Dutch program. But to do it outside of the school, sometimes it's expensive. So that, again, it comes back, you're here in St. Maarten. You can do as much preparation here as possible. Why not do it?
Is there anything you can share with my audience in breaking down the difference between MBO and probably other levels of education?
Okay, in the Netherlands, there are three main tertiary type of education. They have WEO, which is wetenschappelijke onderwijs, which is university. And then they have HBO. HBO is University of Applied Sciences, more hands-on. And then you have MBO, middle vocational education. That's a higher level than what we have here, VSBO. It's a step up from that. MBO is similar to NIPA. And then in MBO, you have different levels. You have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Level 4 is the highest. And yeah.
If you have to study law, which of the level?
You can do that. Let me say, law, to become a lawyer, you would have to do it at the university level, which is way. Okay. You could study law at the Habio level, but you're not going to become a lawyer like that. You have to continue
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole process.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking because a lot of it is theory, really, and a lot of it is reading, comprehension, and interpretation, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So you need a certain level.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering which
It's the
of.
same. It's the same thing for medicine. Medicine is done at the way or the university level.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, in order to take full advantage of the success that you would want for all of the students, you think that these courses, these workshops, should be attended, and do you want students and parents, or just
The first preference is students. I mean, parents are always invited. If the space is available, they can sit in. We don't have an issue with that. The university rooms 202 and 203 have a capacity of about 200 people. So, parents and students can come. To register, they can call 543-1235 or email us at studentsupportservices@stmartengov.org. They can go to the Student Support Services Division Facebook page and scan the QR code and register automatically for this workshop. So if you have the flyer, you just scan the QR code with your phone and you can enter some information, and you'll be registered for this workshop.
okay? Do you see any difference with interest to study in the Netherlands versus elsewhere, especially in the United States, where
There's a big shift. There's a big shift in terms of a lot of students come to me, and the first thing they want to do is go to the Netherlands. And of course, me, it's like when I ask them how good is your Dutch, depending on where they want to go. And of course, I mean, it's like we have a list of A to Z studies in the Netherlands, schools at, for instance, at the HBO and university level, English programs. We have a list that we give students to, so they can go through and explore to see what is there, and whether they are interested in going to the Netherlands to study. A lot of times people come to us and say, "Hey, I want to study in the Netherlands. It's cheaper." But in reality, it's not cheaper. I mean, it's like, and that's something that we would discuss, and I would show them, I would compare both systems, like for instance, the US and the Netherlands, and they would see. One of the key things in the Netherlands, Dutch citizens to have access to, for example, to Duo. Duo is funding by the Dutch government, and they can receive monthly allowances or monthly payments, and that money is basically used for their studies, housing, transportation, and those things.
Bashira, the idea of mindfulness, what does that imply? Retention of what? Well, how do you enforce the idea that you need to be, well, maybe I'm giving away a lot, but it's for you to explain the mindfulness that one should have when it comes to these conditions.
No, you were doing a good job. Mindfulness, it's basically the idea of being in the here and now, understanding what you're feeling, whether it's fear, anxiety, can be like we mentioned, homesickness and those kind of things. Understanding that it's a normal part of the human experience, and then from there seeing what to do. Your nervous system, as I mentioned before, it goes kind of out of whack, where your brain cannot process information and logic when you're in a heightened state of stress. So the mindfulness kind of brings you back into balance, and you use different things for everybody. It might be something else. Maybe it might be walking on the beach for you. Maybe it might be listening to music from Mr. Chance. Maybe it's a hot shower for someone else. So, you're in the present moment and observing what you're going through, what you're feeling, calming yourself, your nervous system, so you can make an informed decision. That's
So,
basically.
in a sense, you're trying to make the point that it's normal to feel
Yes.
not normal.
To feel all that you are feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe the anxiety, the fear, those kind of feelings. It is normal.
Yeah.
Worry.
Yeah.
Because as we mentioned before, going to the Netherlands is a shift. Everything
Yeah.
is changing. So yes, you will have those feelings. We're not denying that. It's just what to do in the moment when you have those feelings, that you don't automatically go to panic mode or survival
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everybody handles the emotion the way they really should.
Exactly.
But if you are informed that it's going to happen, it's normal, then you can identify yourself with where you're at and make the adjustment accordingly.
Precisely.
It can't be easy for everyone though.
I think it depends on how you look at it.
Half full.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it, and if you are equipped from before, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
You know, so in that moment you can say, "Oh, this is something I know," and you grab from that mental toolbox that we talked about to say, "I'll do this instead of that," because you really don't want to make those expensive decisions. You know, just react based on what you're feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
So, I think
The snow comes down and you don't want to move. And you flunked school today because it was snowing.
well, exactly. So you don't just give in to your emotions based on what is happening in the moment. Like, you feel what you're feeling, accept it, and then you move on.
Do you advise them to also, in some of those countries, people live their lives according to the weather. You have to keep checking that on a regular basis. So, any of that, Mr. Chance?
That is something that they have to do too, because if you don't know, sometimes from one day to the next, if the snow is falling, if the trains are going to be running, if the buses are going to be running, so you need to know all of these, and everything is online, huh? And they can be informed, but it's a matter of checking and being up to date, or being in the present.
Yeah. Does this make your work exciting? Or do you ever get tired of going over this every time?
It changes all the time, huh? And of course, for me, it's like depend on the type of students that you have coming in. So some come in more prepared than others, and of course, for me, it's like that's where you try to fill in the gaps. You know, but it is exciting.
Do they make your life easier when they already have information, or maybe folks or family members who live there already and have already set them up?
They may have information, but sometimes not the right information. So that too, if it's the right information, it's good. You know, and of course, me is if I can help or guide them in any particular way, that's always good also.
All right. Well, you may use the time to once again extend an invitation to both students who are showing interest in wanting to study in the Netherlands, as well as their parents. It's important for the parents to be aware as well, because they can help them make the adjustment necessary when they are going through certain things, because they would have already be forewarned.
That is correct, and that's why we advocate. So when parents come to these things, we thank them, because again, supporting the child is very, very important. It's not a hands-off affair. So parents, students who are recently graduated, students who in the exam year or pre-exam year, they're invited to come out to this workshop on Thursday. It's going to be held at the University of St.Maarten from 6 to 8 p.m. And of course, it's free of charge. It's called Mindfulness, Success in Studying in the Netherlands. It's part 1. And you can call 543-1235 to register, or email us at studentsupportservices@stmaartengov.org. Or if you get your hands on the flyer, you can go to our Facebook page and just basically scan the QR code and register one time for the workshop.
You're speaking to students there, though.
Yeah.
Parents
can go to the QR, use the QR code and register their child also.
I was just thinking of some turn-offs for parents. They can get bored in these kind of situation, but am I right about that? Or you may have a difference of opinion as a psychiatrist. You know how the mind works in many ways, There shouldn't be though, because it is always good when you know what they've been told before, so that you might be able to help them identify where they're at as a parent. Because first thing when things goes wrong, they call home.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to presume to know what they will be feeling, but I do think that they will be interested in the information to give that support, as we said, to their child as much as possible. Because, like you said, they will call home at some point if they're feeling homesick or they just want advice. Their parents will be the first one that they reach out to. So this information is something that they really should see as important.
How far are you going to go with this workshop? You're teaching them to, like, prepare, like, being able to maybe do a little cooking or all that kind of stuff too? Or?
No, we don't. That's a different scenario.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe Study Finance does that work.
That part. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we are dealing with primarily the psychosocial. In terms of how they're feeling
Yeah.
and how they operate under stress and basically feeling overwhelmed and those type of things. Because
Yeah.
again, students. I mean, it's not just about, hey, I'm gonna leave from St.Maarten, I'm gonna go to school, everything is gonna be fine. I mean, every day is smooth sailing, as they say. They got.
You ever had a student that said to you, I got this? Not a problem?
That's rare.
Huh?
That's rare, and
It's rare?
because again, as I said, you're going into the unknown. And when you go there, you're going to meet different people from different backgrounds. Say, for instance, you have a group project to work with some people from different ethnicities. And you, for example, you have your ham, you go to sit down and you have your ham sandwich, and sit down in front of these people to eat and stuff like that. And they don't eat ham, and they don't look at pork. I mean, so pork is not one of those meat that they consume. How do you handle that? You understand?
Okay.
Because I've had one of my farmer clients. He basically called me when they left from here. They called me and said, "Listen, I had my ham in my fridge, and this guy took and threw it out."
Yeah.
Because again, too, in their culture is different. So of course, to me, it's like it can create tension.
Yes,
And
yes.
how
yes,
do you
yes,
resolve
yes.
that, and how do you deal with those things? Yeah.
So they got to be aware of that.
You have to be aware of all those things. So it's not just a matter of going to school and say, "Hey, I'm going to go to school," and they might meet a professor or instructor who's biased or who's prejudiced.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And the system, I mean, they have certain things in the system that protects the student from those instances. But are they willing to take advantage of that? And do they know of those
Exactly.
those systems?
Because if you don't know, you don't even know you could take
You see,
advantage.
because one of the first thing they might do, they go to class, they encountered a instructor, a professor who's biased or prejudiced, and then they say, "Hey, I'm dropping out
Yeah, because they don't like me.
because they don't like me."
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the way to go.
Okay.
So
So that's the psychopath you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
So even if they are confident and everything will be okay, it's still good to come out and get the information.
Yeah.
Yes, and be exposed to the knowledge so they know when they're there.
Boy, I guess it makes your work a little bit different than what the normal, but important nonetheless, because I think the bottom line is that these students that we send off would be successful in their endeavor, and if you can help them in any way, I don't see why not.
Yeah. But we want them to be successful in their academics, but also in their life in general, you
Yeah.
know? So we're just preparing them for that.
All right. Okay. One of these good days, when you have these workshops, I'll just come along just to hear what you do. And maybe it might make my job a little bit easier if I have to, or maybe a little bit more rigid, because there are a lot of things that are often playing, especially when you're having these type of conversations. There's pros and cons. There are things that you may not even talk about that may factor in, and yeah, all of these things, if you can address them up front, it's important for people to understand the reason why you are having this on an annual basis.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Chance, your final word?
Again, I would like to encourage parents to encourage their children, their neighbors, whoever they know who are interested in going to the Netherlands to continue their studies, to come out to this workshop. Is going to be held this Thursday at the University of St.Maarten from 6 to 8 p.m. It's free of charge. And you can register by calling 543-1235 or emailing us at student support services at stmartengov.org, or going to our Facebook page and scanning the QR code. And, the more people come out, the better.
All right. Rashida, thank you so much for being here to have this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I've
as well.
learned some. Yeah, and Mr. Chance, as usual,
Thank
thank you for using the platform to be able to get your message across. We hopefully wish that the people will take full advantage of this information, because it would do justice, I'm sure, to what they would want in their students or their children that go away to study. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Randall.
All right, folks, that's going to be the end of it for today. We want to thank you so very much for joining us on Viewpoint. We'll be back again tomorrow, God's willing. An invitation is extended for you to join us then and throughout the rest of the week. In the meantime, you take care of yourselves. Over to the Master Control we go, and then to the newsroom. Goodbye.